Happy Monday, gamers. We are back. Well, if you're watching it not on Monday, happy whatever day of the week it is. I am NanMan, and we've got Izzet Twin versus Ruby Storm for you today. So thanks for tuning in for some more modern Magic action. And we're back on Monday, and Thursdays are 2 days that we always do new episodes for you to enjoy. This episode in particular is going to be a really good one if you're trying to get into the modern format, trying to learn these two decks in particular. It's been a couple months since we featured Ruby Storm on the channel. Last time we saw it was in November, so it is nice to be able to see it in action again. Izzet Twin has been popping up a little bit more, so if you are new to the deck or new to it in Modern, this is a good episode to watch. It is going to be a good episode because the player that is piloting it is new. This is their first time piloting the deck, so they're still learning the cards, still learning the deck. Ruby Storm player has played Storm before, but let's get into it and talk a little bit about why this matchup is going to be interesting and exciting. Again, we've done our tier list stuff. If you missed our tier list episode, we did post up a little bit about it. And we kind of ranked how these decks are. Ruby Storm is a solid deck when you think about how, I guess, well it can perform, but it is not like an S tier deck by any means. Oh, apparently I just spammed the subscribe button twice. So yeah, if you're not subscribed yet, consider subscribing because, again, we do have gameplay footage for you every Monday and Thursday. But, oh, can you hear the cat in the background screaming? It's one of those days. I guess everyone's excited to be on camera here. But so both of these are combo based decks, right? So Ruby Storm's goal is to storm off, all right, cast a bunch of spells in succession, and then be able to wish for a perfect card, usually a card to kill your opponent from your sideboard. Here is what we're talking about, like, you know, well, I forgot the name of the actual Storm card here. Whatever, you guys know what it is. We'll see if it shows up here. But on the other side, Izzet Twin's goal is to utilize counter spells, delay tactics, and just kind of decide when they want to win, or go for a explosive, hey, I've got 3 mana, let's try to sneak in the win here. So, like, there's 2 different ways that you can go about it. It is a little bit fragile of a deck in the sense that it doesn't have a lot of board presence. It is like things like Thundertrap Trainers. You've got Snapcaster Mage. There are lists that are running Tamiyo. Some lists are just running Harbinger of the Seas. So, like, it's basically a wizard list. Izzet Wizard. And you're going to be utilizing things like, hey, we just found a counterspell here off Thundertrap Trainer. So that is something to note if you're playing against it. Pay attention to what cards are grabbed by the Thundertrap Trainer to help you know when you should be going for things. Ruby Storm's going to be surveilling, trying to figure things out, get themselves set up. All right, so again with the Ruby Storm, it used to be a deck in Modern like 2015. Oh, Pass in Flames is what is going to be go to the graveyard, giving everything flashback. So utilizing a very powerful spell there to just kind of throw in the graveyard. We don't really care about hard casting it. We can utilize it later on. But the goal of the deck, and the reason it came back, was because our Ruby was able to be reprinted, and Ral Zarek was able to be printed. Both of them do a cost reduction to red spells. So your goal is to be able to land those, put those out onto the battlefield, and be able to kind of set yourself up to, again, storm off. Cast a bunch of spells in quick succession to exile the top cards of your library, set yourselves up. So there are windows of opportunity for you to interact and disrupt what they're doing. So it's like, pay attention to when they start to go off. Are you trying to stop their mana? Are you trying to stop their digging for stuff? Like, those are the questions here. So we see a Flame of Anora is going to get used. And we're going to be drawing 2 cards here. Now, you have the option to wait on this because of things like Ral, but that's the only real creature that's available for the most part. So some lists are running a couple other things, doing things a little differently, but for the most part, casting a Flame of Anor here early is perfectly fine on the end step if you're sitting here and trying to dig for stuff, because again, our goal is to try to get up to that 4 mana. Oh, we're doing it on our main step. I don't like that as much. I guess if our goal is to just dig, right? But the fun of Izzet Twin is it's all going to be reactionary, right? Scare your opponent. I have 3 mana up. Am I going to be casting Deceiver here? Am I going to be casting Flame? But Questing Druid is a nice addition to the Ruby Storm because it's, again, redundancy within the exile effects. Exile top 2 cards to your library, right? And then we, of course, do have that Questing Druid that we can hard cast from there. Oh, another Questing Druid in hand here. So I like the Questing Druid because, again, we talked about how it doesn't really run very many creatures, but this gives you another line and another avenue to try to do something. So whenever you cast a white, blue, black, or red spell, basically anything but green, you get to put a +1 counter on it. And we're going to lose some life, killing that. I mean, if we don't use them now, they're gone. So utilizing it at this point, and oh, there's the dice, the ones that are there to mess with people. All of the numbers on it are like set up as if there would be a second number or a third. Like they're all off center, and it definitely messes with people. All right, so yeah, looks like we were waiting for another land, and that might be why we fired off. And we're trying to draw cards off Flame of Anor before, but we'll get a Thunder and Falls here. This is fine. Like we don't need to worry so much about having it untapped. I mean, you could again threaten if you have a Deceiver. Maybe we're still digging for it. I know we have Counterspell. I know we've got Bolt. So like we could just be setting ourselves up. And that's the thing about the Twin deck. You can really take your time with it if you're not being threatened, right? If you're not fighting against one of the aggro decks in the format, you can get away with just sort of like sitting and waiting. Now, the Ruby Storm player knows that there is a counterspell in hand, so they have to kind of wait and play the patient game as well. And so both of them are just sort of in this arms race of building up resources and trying to prepare themselves to go off and find a window of opportunity to try to get the combo win here. All right, a little bit of in the tank. We got a bolt here. I guess you could just bolt this right now. 2 counter spells. Yeah, so no Deceiver, but we do have the Splinter Twin. So we're in the looking phase here. Dropping to 13, though. Bolt, Snap, Bolt is definitely a line that exists for winning with the deck. It is not the, the way that you maybe want to win. If you're like, I want to win with Splinter Twin. Yeah, we know. But if you're looking for what are my win conditions, how can I close out the game? Because every game does get slightly different and very much depends on what is happening on the board, what's happening, later based on what you've seen off of cards being exiled. There's so much information going around that you have to try to adapt and change and not just get caught up in going, this is my only way to win, because then you'll just get stuck. Ren's Resolve is going to come out is our first exile type effect. Now you get to, until the end of your next turn, you can play those cards. So but he's saying, hey, these are 3 redundancies within the deck. They're all exile type effects. So, they all do the same thing, essentially. But some of them are just in different time zones, if you will, of when you get to cast them. So, all right, Ren's Resolve, we're going to exile top 2. That's fine. We're okay with this. Like resolving. We're not going to try to counter. We're going to try to bolt here. I like this. Because we have a second bolt, And we're going to try to go for some big push here. Desperate Ritual, trigger. We'll get another counter on our Questing Druid, which we're okay with. So we get 3 red mana here. That is the 3rd spell that has been cast this turn. And those are getting exiled. Oh, Metamorphose is really nice. And if we're... Oh, so we are counting... He says my storm count is 2. But Storm cares... create a copy of the spell when it's cast for each spell cast before it. So, because the bolt was cast, technically the storm count is 3, even though we've cast 2 spells. And it is important in some cases to count how many instants and sorceries we've cast, because if we are able to hit a Ral or something like that, and Ral ends up flipping, he gets loyalty counters based on the number of instant and sorceries. But storm count is actually a little bit higher here. So, storm count's 4 now after the Metamorphose is used. Glimpse the Impossible. So storm count 5. Exile 3 cards. Glimpse is a really good card, and another reason why Storm has come back, because if you are getting a bunch of stuff you don't care about, like let's say you're exiling a bunch of lands or you're, something else, and you don't use them, they are turning into Eldrazi spawn. Also, they go to the graveyard at the end. He says, that goes to the end of my next turn. These ones go to the end of this turn. So, again, it's like this weird sequencing thing of where we're going. So, now we had Storm Count 5. We're stopping here. Let's go. I guess we want to wait and play it safe and go for the all that mana that we had generated is going to get fizzled. We're setting up for a future turn with the Wish and the Rituals in there. But here's a 6/6 coming at him. But we still have that bolt in hand. Yeah, and so we do the check here. Hey, I've already bolted it once, so there is 3 damage marked on it here. So if we bolt it again, it'll die. There's the bolt. So that play works out really well for us because our opponent went through a bunch of stuff. Now, if our opponent decided to go and continue with that, we would have been in a rough spot, right? So now these 3 are no longer exiled, and now we're going over it and just saying, yeah, because the way that this works is most of the time when things are in exile, they stay in exile, but this one is an impossibly different card with a long line of text that basically says exile 3 cards at the end of the turn. If they are still in exile and you have not cast them, put them in your graveyard and then make some spawns equal to the number of cards that you had remain in exile, or essentially went to the graveyard there. So that's 3 more, which again, that big mana surge is going to set us up for the follow-up turn because we have Past in Flames. We now have a couple Rituals in the graveyard, Metamorphose. We've got some more exile effects. So we're lining ourselves up for a big explosive turn coming up here. All right. Again, we're digging and looking for a Deceiver here. No Snapcaster Mage, but we do have some counter spells. Are we missing a land here? Are we considering looking for Deceiver? Okay, so we're not interested in land. Pitching that to the graveyard. Digging. Thundertrap Trainer. Again, if we're looking for Deceivers, we don't necessarily need to play the Thundertrap Trainer right now. We could help us dig for more counter spells and more delay effects. Shock in, dropping to 15. Which again, the lower life total that you get against a storm, that just means they need a less storm count to go off and try to get you. So we will do the Thundertrap Trainer here, and we'll start digging and looking for a specific counter spell. Hopefully, that's kind of what we're hoping for here. Now, you cannot get Deceiver off of this. That was one of those things, like, you have to pick a non-land, non-creature card. but the deck is full of those, right? He says, these are lands. I'll just set those aside. I don't have to reveal them, but I'm just helping my brain with it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it doesn't matter.
And he says, it doesn't matter, right? You know I can't take these. It just helps me sorting, which is fine, all right? We're playing it at locals. It's a weekly event that these players are battling it out. So you can, you know, if you're playing at a tournament or bigger event, keep the information hidden, right? Keep all 4 cards in your hand. Do not reveal too much information to it. And we will reveal, really good choice here is the Spell Snare. We had the option of the counterspell Flare of Denial as an option. I like the Spell Snare here a lot. The really impactful and important cards that the Ruby Storm deck is wanting to do are 2-mana spells, right? Ral, Ruby, the rituals, right? The exile effects, all of the things that cost 2. Even, I mean, you know, the actual Storm payout here and Grape Shot and stuff like that, but it's got Storm. So even if you counter it, all the Storm effects still go off and go on the stack, so it doesn't really matter. But the things that lead up to that is what matters. We got 2 mana available. Here is a Ren's Resolve. We're going to try to set ourselves up here. So it's to check how many cards do you have in hand? When do I want to fight over this? I like the idea of trying to slow down and fight over them generating mana or them trying to wish for stuff, right? If they're going for their big payout here, let's put a stop to that. We're going to fight over 1 Ren's Resolve. That's fine too. I like also saving the Spell Snare for a Ruby or the Ral. And part of that is knowing the deck and what you're fighting against, right? So 2 Past in Flame sitting there. Here's our land for turn. We still have mana, essentially, with our Eldrazi spawns. And by fighting over, because our opponent is not going for mana and they're trying to dig for it, it seems like here, you know, going for that Ren's Resolve is perfectly fine to counter. Like, there is, we're seeing the results here that it's like, yeah, they're clearly digging when they're casting both these, and they're not casting any rituals. Like, we don't know. They've got plenty of mana, essentially, but not a lot to do with it yet. So that's why they're continuing to just dig and hope. So there's a, what do we got? 2 cards left in hand, and a lot building up in the graveyard here. All right, no Deceiver still. That's fine. I mean, we could still just start chipping away at our opponent and sending the Thundertrap Trainer across every turn. Because if they don't block, they're going to start getting chipped away, getting us closer to that alternate win con, essentially, or other line of winning, of going for the bolts and the snaps and things like that. We just play our land tapped here, which is fine if you're worried about your life total. We will be going on an adventure again. So yeah, doing this at instant speed is nice. Do we fight over it? Again, our opponent doesn't really have a lot of fuel, so fighting over it is not a bad choice. They have 1 card left in hand. As long as we have the counterspell to try to fight over when they go for Past in Flames or something, we'll be okay. And he says, hey, if I counter it, does it no longer go on the adventure, essentially, and you can't cast it as a creature later? And it's like, yep, that is how that works with those cards, so you can be able to just, like, put it right in the graveyard. So there's the counterspell going. All right, we're left with 3 mana here. So again, that 3 mana is the scary mana count, because you could just die here. But our opponent, you know, the Twin player has been very vocal about missing and not finding the pieces that he needs. So it's like you kind of have this window of, I think I'm okay here. Let's do a Reckless Impulse, which is fine, right? They're digging. They got 1 card left. We're okay with letting that resolve. Another wish, and now a Ral has shown up. So that's the things that we were talking about that we were hoping maybe to save our spell snares for is the big important 2-mana stuff like Ruby or Ral. Pop a red, pop this. 1 card left in hand. Here's Ral Monsoon Mage. 3 mana left. So, instant sorceries cost 1 less. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery during your turn, flip a coin or roll a dice. If you win, you get to flip it. If you lose, you take 1 point of damage. So, knowing that we were able to see the Ral instead of seeing, you know, the Ruby medallion here, the Thundertrap Trader swinging in and doing damage could be extremely relevant. All right, checking the backside, making sure that everything is checks out, looks good. It says here you go. I'll let you put that back in. Ral Monsoon Mage, is that good? Now, hitting it with a counter spell here is fine as well. I don't know if we have any more counter spells left, though. So we have a Splinter Twin in hand. Yeah, I guess it's like with Ral Monsoon Mage out, we know that the next big thing that they're going to be doing is setting themselves up for the flashback. So the players at the next table over are getting real hyped about their match, which is great. But yeah, we're stuck with 1 card in hand and just kind of stuck, huh? But our Ruby Storm player is now in the tank, really trying to decide what to go for here, and looks like they are going to go for it. Valakut Awakening. Put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many cards plus 1. 1 on the bottom. Let's draw 2. Yeah, our twin player is feeling really excited about it. Goes, yeah, that's not a bad card to put in here. I mean, really, it's not. Counts towards your lands. Players are running into EFCs, usually sink to stupor here, but giving us another option if we're really trying to dig and get information. Now, 3 mana, again, it is an instant, but that 3 mana is really important. We have a lot of 3-drops within the deck, the Deceivers, the Flames of Anors. So finding a slot for that, and if you're running a flex spot, just a 1-of in there is not that bad of a choice for a twin player. Uh-oh. All right, we found the Deceiver. So here's the rough stuff. Any Izzet Twin players are gonna feel pain here. Deceiver Exarch is gonna come out. Tap the 4. Play Splinter Twin. Attempt to win. Yep. Just kidding. Deceiver does not have haste. So that means that we don't win. So that's why we set it up to do Deceiver and flash it in on the end step here. And so the players are going through it. Now, let's go through the lines if that was the case, right? We attack with Thundertrap Trainer again. Our opponent, if we attack 2 turns with Thundertrap Trainer, our opponent's at 10. So again, you should always be attacking with Thundertrap Trainer. Basically attack with any creature that you have against a Ruby Storm player just to try to chip away at them the best you can. Now, if we flash in Deceiver here, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. It's going to cost 5 mana to flashback. Oh, Ruby, that's really good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana left. Yeah, so this is where if they cast Past in Flames for 4 mana, then you flash in Deceiver here and tap down their last land and they lose. Oh, that's the line here. Oh no. All right, so Storm Count 2 right now.
To be fair, this is my first time actually playing this.
All right, so our twin player says, hey, to be fair, this is my first time playing the deck, and I knew that these 2 cards work together, but I didn't quite understand that it didn't have haste, and that's why everybody flashes it in, so then it can attack next turn. All right, let's start getting our rituals. Bink, bink, Storm Count 4. But we talked about this as an important learning match more than anything else, right? Learning, because Modern has so many different decks. We've showcased so many different ones, especially at the local level, especially online. You need to not only learn your deck, but you also need to start learning the other decks in the format to understand how you should be interacting, when you should be caring about fighting over certain things. Nanamorphose. All right, I think, what are we at, 6 or 7 now, Storm Count? I was trying to keep track over here. Ooh, yeah, we're going now. It's like, this is the point where we have all the tools available to us. 8, 9, Storm Count 9 if we cast both those, yep. But yeah, we would have won here. Deceiver would have came in, tapped down the last remaining land while Past in Flames is on the stack, and our opponent just has to scoop. Well, they wouldn't necessarily scoop there, but you flashing in your Deceiver, and then on the following turn, like, they would just pass and go, well, I guess I try again and hope I don't die here, or show me the twin and I'll scoop. All right, let's see. How can they get there here? We got a lot of still exile effects. There's the Wish. So we're still trying to count. Our opponent's at 15, so that's still a pretty high count that we need to get to. Double checking through. Okay, let's check our sideboard. Is there anything else that we could utilize in our wishing here that could help us? All right, I think that's 10. Oh, Rawl is nice. I mean, it's redundancy at this point. But, all right, we still got 6 red. So the notepad is extremely important. Sometimes players will utilize and track, here's how much mana I have, here's how much storm count I have, and they have dice to do that. You know, here's my D6s for my mana. Here's a D20 to represent how I'm doing for my storm count. Dismember. I think we're at 12 now. Yeah, so there's the Dismember. So yeah, we game's over now for our twin player. I mean, game was pretty much over once they resolve the flashback here, right? So Past in Flames, and we started going. We have so much built up into our graveyard, and that's kind of the goal of the deck, or at least one of the lines to look at if you're trying to learn how to play this deck. Like if you're seeing it on our channel, or you're seeing it online, and you're looking at it, so hey, here we go. We're gonna keep just like chipping away at ourselves. Now we're at 4 again. If we did 2 extra damage, the Storm player would be at 2, saying that there's still a chance. All right. He says, you can do it, I can believe in you. Let's see, how many we got? Valakut's Awakening. Oh, that's only 1 red to be able to do that. Oh, dropping to 3. Again, we would have been at 1. So maybe they would have been, like, they can't stop, right? They have to go. All right. Pyretic Ritual. There's the flip. Okay. So if they were at 1 life, they're fine now. Under the assumption we attacked, right? We're playing that hypothetical what if situation here because, like, you know, we should have been attacking with our Thundertrap trainer there, but that's okay. This is the big learning one for everybody. All right, storm count, or at least Ral's loyalty here is based on the number of instant sorceries, which our storm count was like 13 or something at the moment. And now we're going to -8, which is awesome. Exile the top 8 cards of your library. You may cast instant and sorceries from among them without paying their mana cost. Let's see what we get. Oh, those are nice. Oh, those are really nice. Yeah, hey, do you want a bunch of mana and to continue exiling stuff? So what we're at 13 here. Yeah, so we just cast these couple rituals here. Cast the that'll put us, what, maybe storm count 16 or 17 here at this point. I just spammed them up on the battlefield here. Hey, boom, boom, boom. We're going to make even more mana. We're going to make 2 blue mana. The other thing is all 3 of those rituals, all are for the price of for free. Off of Rawl's alt. Or -8, if you will. All right. We have it. We just got to cast the wish here. We're just still going through, digging through, making sure that we are 100% closing the gap. Our opponent is hellbent. All right. But we had to wait for like these specific instances of there's the wish. Let's go get a card we own from outside the game. And when you play a 60-card format, that does count our sideboards here. And there we go. Grape shot for what, 18, 17, something like that. And we'll just ping, 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 ping. Make a storm copy of each of these spells. So yeah, Ruby Storm, it is a lot. So many game actions. So if you like a deck that is very focused on planning and setting up for those specific lines, because that was a really good showcasing of, I had to go through the graveyard lines to get the win there. Because sometimes you just have the tools and the pieces to just go off and you just like go dump all my stuff on my turn and I just get there. And I don't really have to worry about the Past in Flames as much. Like usually you will to help you win because you got to recast your rituals and build that storm count up higher. But that was one of those cases where you really could not go off and win until it got to that late stage there. And, you know, a 30-minute game 1 in a 50-minute round is going to be tough. Izzet Twin is actually going to be a little bit more challenging because of the amount of counter spells. Now, if you're looking for other things to bring in against a Storm player, if you're running Twin, you know, if you have more like spell pierces, spell snares, things like that, even the force of negations, like you're going to be just trying to disrupt and stop what they're doing. The big payout cards that you want to stop are like the Past in Flames, right? Getting rid of Past in Flames, getting rid of Wish, disrupting and slowing down their mana acceleration, right? If they're going to be casting a Desperate Ritual, try to stop the first one because then that starts a chain reaction of things. Maybe they have a second one to follow it up and you're like, oh, well, okay. But if you can at least try to stop the first one, it really helps with the kind of chain that they're trying to do, just chain a bunch of stuff together. All right. Both players kind of setting up. We're getting our lands, surveilling. But yeah, I think I wanted to showcase this match in particular because of how important this one was to. We get to see so much of what the Storm deck is trying to do. We get to see so much of what the Twin deck is trying to do. And again, a lot of the Twin player is setting up here. And, you know, the biggest thing to, I guess, if you're learning the deck is remembering that the Twin deck is all about instant speed. Always do stuff at your opponent's turn unless you have like a Thundertrap trainer or something like that. Otherwise, you're just basically land go and then only react when your opponent tries to do something. Like here, where they're trying to do the Ruby Medallion. If we have our 2 mana up and we don't play Consider until their turn, we are putting the fear of a counterspell. But by tapping out on our turn to play Consider, it basically telegraphs and gives the Storm player the information that, hey, the coast is clear. I have very little that I need to worry about here. So we did our surveil, or with the Consider, we ended up grabbing a Flame of Anor, but it looks like we were missing a land here, so I don't mind. We already had a Flame of Anor in hand. Yes, the drawing cards is really nice, but pitching it to try to get a land is more important because we have all the tools we need in our hand already, right? We have a Pestermite in there and a Splinter Twin, it looks like. But here we go, Glimpse. We don't care what they are. We just need the mana for the following up turn. There's a Deceiver, yeah. So I guess we would have drawn a Deceiver instead of the Flame of Anor. But again, it's all about doing stuff out during our opponent's turn. A little bit of a mana screw here because that's 2 turns in a row without getting any lands. But yeah, if we're like 3 mana is the key amount. You have an opening hand with Pestermite and Splinter Twin. You don't want to mulligan it. You've got 2 ways to get lands, right? Or I guess you have one. You kept a 1-lander. Ooh, 1-lander with a draw effect with a land tutor. That's not bad. You can keep a greedier hand that way. Another Glimpse. Oh yeah, look at this. More mana. We can cast the Ren's Resolve here. Yeah. Or not Ren's Resolve. Reckless Impulse. They're all the same, right? Those get to be played until next end step. These will turn into even more Eldrazi spawn. So hey, we're going to represent it. I've got 5 spawns now. Ooh, there's a land that's tapped. Again, that would have been what that would have been last turn. We would have gotten that. So then that puts us to that position of having Deceiver or Pestermite. Regardless, I don't think it's going to make a difference here with how much mana our opponent has. So they've got the 5 spawns. They've got the 2 rituals here. We're fetching. Are we just looking for a Pass in Flames at this point?
It's both cool and creepy.
All right, so we're gonna start casting. Oh, there's Rawl. Okay, that'll do it. All right, so now we get to see a little bit of a Rawl Resolve. Desperate Ritual trigger. So there is this window to try to fight over Rawl. So triggers on the stack. We're going to try to bolt it and kill it. We know that there's the second one, but it's like the chance to try to do it now. We know he's going to cast the ritual again. But this gives him, 1 chance instead of 2 chances of flipping it. I mean, you could also have waited until it flips. Because if it flips, which it does, he gets to dodge the bolt. And now in this case, we've cast 2 spells. So if you let the first one and he wins it, sweet. Goes off, no problem. He tries to cast it the second time. I guess in the end, it's gonna have 4 loyalty if it doesn't flip the first time. If it flips the first time, it'll only have 3 loyalty. Then you gotta try to bolt it. So I don't know. I think trying to kill it is the right play here. when you try to kill it, it might be the only question about that. There's the big one we've been waiting for. Past in Flames. Let's wrap everything up here. We've got all those rituals in the graveyard. We've got lots of exile effects, and we're going to go through this. It says, do you have a counterspell? Yeah, so that Surveil Flame of Anor to the top is what did us in here. I mean, I'm at 5 storm, but I don't think it made a difference because of the amount. Yeah, he says, look at all of these things that I've got. Then I've got Wish. I'll get there. No problem in the end based on what things are going. So, yeah, I think it's a tough one. Tough one for game number 2 there, but definitely another, like, consider matters. The deck is an instant speed deck. Play it at instant speed. It'll make a big difference. Ruby Storm, very cool. If you love game actions, this is a deck to try to pick up and play. So, especially with, like, there's going to be some bannings potentially for the Breach deck that also has a lot of game actions. But, yeah, that's going to do it for our Monday episode. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed this game. We'll see you guys, of course, every Monday and Thursday for more gameplay action. But that's going to do it for us. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next game.